Okay, my dear Aries, this is for you for the month of May. What a month April was, your season, and a lot going on. The extent of how much was going on is still something that I'm trying to unravel. But let's look at what your integration looks like. Let's look at what May looks like for you and open up some parameters of how to move through the energy. And as always, just to stay aware of all the different dimensions of yourself and how the universe is creating a pathway of alignment for you and how your guides are communicating to you through experiences, through shifts, through interesting delights, surprises, timeline shifts, perspective shifts. All of that is a really indication of what's happening inside of us, outside of us, in the collective soup, in our own paradigms as well, so that we're not always just searching for some exterior sign. We're actually living and breathing and understanding a deep collaboration with spirit and with ourselves as we evolve. We're not here to really get it or understand it or figure it out at all. We're here to experience the unraveling and the remembering of ourselves. And I think we lose that over time, don't we? We lose that along the way, particularly as we get older and the inclination is towards more comfort. We still have to be in divine alignment with spirit. And that can be whatever you want it to be. It can just be how you move through this experience, good, bad, or indifferent, as we surrender, as we reveal, as we hopefully get closer to ourselves and sink into what might be an expression of self-love and acceptance, although it will take us, a lot of us, most of our lifetimes to get there. It is a long journey, and it's a long journey with your guides too, particularly the ones that are going to stick around, your birth totem, your guardian guide, maybe some of the others, maybe not, we don't know. But for sure, we know as long as we live and breathe on this planet, we will always be divinely connected to nature. And our depth and relevance to that is really what we make it. But that is the version of spirit that will never leave as long as our planet looks like this. But also within Ankara, we teach you how to have that divine nature connection, even if you're surrounded by concrete, even if you're traveling on a plane, even if you're not around the most ideal environment, we go within to find nature's wisdom as well. So that we're never without it. Jumping cards, Aries, jumping cards. All right, we'll have that as the overriding theme. Maybe that sets the tone for all the readings this month. So this one will be a 4-card reading. We're evolving. How fun, how cute. And then the shadow card as always. But remember, more cards on what's happening, what we're doing, the structures of our 3D lives. Then the shadow aspect comes in just as a preparation towards what might bubble to the surface and delight in that. So we're not constantly digging, we're not overemphasizing on the shadow, we are still organizing our lives and then being aware and ready for the uncomfortable parts. So that's the way that I've found to balance shadow work through everything that I do. The overriding theme is we will be letting go of something. We will be understanding a loss of some kind. Now, that can be anything. It doesn't have to be a friend that you're no longer in contact with or a deep loss like death. It can be a version of yourself that is now showing to you that it's outdated. It could be an expectation that you had upon yourself or your timeline or somebody else that has now been revealed as not where we're heading. It's a timeline that's now shifted. Now, how we work with our students and how we work in Ankara is that we are always looking into our timelines. That's part of what the work we do. Call it premonition, call it timeline work, call it future hacking, whatever you want to call it. We're just putting the same emphasis on the future as we are on the past. So just as you heal the past and you look back and go, oh, that's interesting. I've never viewed that event like that. That's cool. Or Now I know more about my family members or my childhood than I did before, so I can heal that part, bring it into awareness. This card tells me that a change in your awareness and your perspective will represent a loss, but this card is not a huge death or loss in the way that we perceive it to be. It's actually something that you've built up will change and spill. So the reality of it will change, but you've also built up a bunch of other cups that you can depend on. So what your ego will play it out as is, oh my God, what a shame, what a loss, I can't believe it. But Spirit is actually reminding you that it is only a minor setback from one parameter of yourself. So some people call this card crying over spilt milk. It's really like, watch the tantrums from the ego and how much they might be laced in illusion around, is it actually a loss? Or are you just getting rid of a fantasy or an illusion that you built up in your mind that is actually not sustainable now? And Spirit says, no, we're not going there. Your timelines have shifted in your favor, but we need you to deal with this loss now. We need you to grieve or let go of what you thought you were building up, because you won't lose everything. You'll only lose a distraction. My guides do this all the time. They say, you thought you were going there. And when cards like this show up, they say, we want you to really get a good look at where you could be going and where you need to go, because you're powering down this other timeline and you think that it's going to be everything that you hoped it would be. But we want you to come here in the middle and say, it's not your best case scenario, it's not your worst case scenario, but actually it's sustainable and fulfilling and in aligned with your highest needs, not what your ego wants. Because what our ego wants is usually setting us up for emptiness, because that's the design of the ego, to just be safe. So your ego doesn't want anything to be spilt and any setbacks whatsoever. But if we've built up the other cups and we know we can build them up again, the 5 really tells us that we're just shifting now. And we're going to apply the same techniques and the same paradigms of building up your emotional and spiritual nourishment to get to a better timeline. But you're going to have to pull yourself away from this idealistic nature of everything that you've built. Does that make sense? So it's always in your favor, because the rest of the cards are very good, Aries, very good. I just want you to understand that there will be this sense of setback, this sense of loss. There might be tears and a purge around, it's not what I thought it was going to be, but I know I need to shift. So you may have been feeling the energy behind April, the force behind a lot of the planets, and now we're looking at all of that force got me to here. There's something I need to let go of to create the pathway that I need to be on, because we are then looking out into the world and dreaming of a more creative and more passionate life. And that might be somewhere where we haven't embarked upon yet. It might be crossing turbulent seas, so to speak. It could be needing to venture out in new ways and align ourselves with what else could be out there for me. This combination of cards tells me that maybe even though you were hoping to get to a place that represents achievement, there may be a level of safety in that is now suiting. We need to look with new eyes out into the world and say, but yeah, what is actually possible and what could I create? Not what I think I could, not what is safe for me to, but what actually represents nourishment. Because as your timelines shift and the more spiritual work you do, it's not this, I'm going to get that version of success that everybody wants me to get, because it's not fulfilling. There's a warning in that. There's an ego trap in that. It's what suits my soul contract, what suits my needs and my pathway of evolution, based on whatever belief systems you have. But the belief systems might be shifting as well around, I thought that would be the destination that would make my heart sing. But as I pursue it, I can see that that fire is dampening. So we need to let go of what our sense of emotional nourishment is. And that could be the illusions around who's coming with me, how it's going to play out, what people are going to think of it, and how they're going to respond to me. Because if you've been getting some inclinations that things are a bit off, then maybe they are for a reason, because your guides are saying, yo, bring it back. We've got a place of more sustainability. And this is the place where you're going to find fulfillment that compounds over time. We are so designed to get that instant dopamine. We're so designed for this version of what we think is going to be fulfilling based on what other people think of it or us. And that's what we've been taught and conditioned to believe through the media and through these old paradigms. But so many people will tell you they'll strive to get there and burn themselves out getting there. And they get to the destination, they think, what the hell is this? This feels terrible. You don't need to pick up any more biographies and look at any more documentaries about people that are trying to get to a place that society deems is valuable or famous or wealthy or whatever that looks like, abundant, for them to get there, and they're miserable, their mental health suffers, and that's all hidden. So don't wait until you've burnt yourself out and get to a timeline to realize there's emptiness in it. Seek out the timeline now and feel into that. Is it what you thought it was going to be? Is it what you hoped it would be? Because this card tells me, let's just start the dream again. And you don't have to say it's not going to work, put it all down, and have this very Aries approach to like, well, if I can't have it all, I'm not going to have any of it. This is really saying, search again. Infinite timelines with infinite possibilities mean that there could be a timeline that right now doesn't feel as the dopamine inducing one that you want, because that's related to your ego, but will actually unlock your resources more than you think. Because here we have the overriding theme of it's going to have to be whatever is trying to find you, whatever timeline is trying to find you. Queen of Pentacles tells us that it's going to have to be sustainable, consistent, nourishing, and worthwhile financially. What you could have been heading towards will drain your resources, be like a fight and flight response. You'll burn out, you'll spend all your money, and then you'll be back in a place of deficiency, scarcity, and poverty. But she's telling us it might not feel amazing now. It's not the Knight of Wands where we take off into the sunset and go, fuck it, I'm doing it anyway. She's saying, look, it might feel a bit more boring than you like. It might feel like not what your heart hoped for right now, but I guarantee you that we'll be abundant in the end if we properly plan this out and figure out what sustainable fulfillment looks like, where your security, your money, your resources, your energy, your time, your support network are all there in the end. And bringing in that parameter of where we're spending and investing in timelines that feel amazing, but might not actually serve us. Because if we can, and we dare to dream something different, we will find a place of abundance. We will work our way to surrounding ourselves in the environment and the feeling of, I did it right, I did it well, I did it with balance, I did it with neutrality, I did it to serve my needs later on, I didn't over borrow on my future resources, I cut and took the losses to make a more sustainable, structured plan so that I can feel abundance more often in my future. So see how now the timelines are shifting in your favor, but it's not going to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get everything I've ever wanted. It would be like, yes, you will, but it's going to be longer and slower than you think, but more sustainable than you ever imagined. Now, remember, for Aries, sustainability is difficult sometimes to grasp and to follow. But if you know that you will be twice as abundant, as long as it takes you twice as long to get there, but you won't have so many of the setbacks and the losses and the tears, then let's learn that lesson now so that we can be forever dreaming about what's out there for us, pursuing it in mindfulness, sustainability, and nourishment, so that our earth element is always strong, so that we always feel like we are putting ourselves and our needs first in a sustainable way. So it's not the fire part of you, Aries. It's the other earthly part that's balancing and keeping that flame alive. It's quite an interesting reading because there's a lot of the elements in here. Let go of the emotions and have a purge, cry about it because there's something that's unresolved or something that's blinding you. So first find it, let it go. And you might have to give up the hope of something to dream big on a passionate future that you're excited about and making that sustainable so that you can have fun along the way, so you can be in your garden with all your beautiful things and all your favorite people more often, so that we don't have to constantly be one step forward, two steps back. This is really saying take 3 steps back, have a good look at it, look at the timeline that your guides want you to see. You're going to have to think really well about it. You're going to have to think strategically about it and then make it sustainable so that you are 1 step forward and pause, 1 step forward and pause, 1 step forward and pause, rather than the Aries way of taking off into the future with this huge extreme amount of energy, but then burning out pretty quickly. So how do we make it sustainable is the question, so that your abundance can become sustainable and you can be surrounded by the right things, the right environment, the right nature, the right people. And if you need help with this timeline, please admit that to yourself so that you can understand the lack of fulfillment as it shows up, the change in the timelines, and other earthly people around you can help you. So depending on what that mix is and what you need to complement, find it out there in someone else's perspective, in someone else's wisdom, in someone else's brain. You know, it could be you have the biggest creative idea and you want to go out there and make it happen, but who's going to organize the finances and who's going to do the bookkeeping and who's going to keep you on track and who's going to fan those flames of passion when they go out, right? These are the complementary ideas that we have around this, but I think what's going to come out of it is going to be really beautiful. So let's be mindful of the shadow as it comes through. Very interesting. 16 is hummingbird. And this is the Stalk Your Shadow deck, which I do have online. I created the graphics, the words, and self-published as well. Very interesting process. But the hummingbird, even though it doesn't feel like a shadow animal or a shadow bird, there are shadow characteristics to every animal ally. There is the part of hummingbird that's so beautifully light and easy to change. But in that easily changed nature, there is agitation and not sticking to anything, not sticking to one flower and one nectar source, which to us is like, maybe that sustainability piece is really difficult for you and we need to admit that. Maybe you do want one flower to produce all your nectar more often rather than having to move around different projects and move around people and try and find someone that's as excited about it as you are. So maybe we need to take those steps back and say, even though the nectar feels good over here, so even though I'm loving this and I'm getting so much dopamine and I want to fully invest and it's all very Aries fun, like, yes, this is the only person, this is the only timeline for me, this is the only way. Hummingbird comes in and says, well, there's a million ways we could do this. And if you're going to spend a lot of energy doing it, let's find some stability in it, so that we don't have to use all of the resources all of the time for a sense of I can do it. It's more about how do we find that nectar, that sweet spot over time, and make sure that there's sustainability all the time so that you are always receiving those feel good places, those places of nourishment and fulfillment long term, rather than constantly searching for the next hit, the next hit, the next hit. So this usually is about structures, right? And things will change in your favor if you have the courage to let go of something, to understand that you've been moving around with huge amounts of excitement, trying to find the nectar from everywhere in your life, and say, okay, what's the plan here? What's the long-term sustainable plan for my future based on the abundance that I would like to bring in, and that beautiful earthly nature of providing for myself and my loved ones first, and having time to play after. So it really is that beautiful alignment between, it's not always going to work out exactly the way we want it to, and we don't want it to. We want to have a passionate, creative future of which we don't have to keep bottoming out for and risking everything and being all in. We actually want all of it. Where's the timeline where we can have all of it? Where we're schooled and pressured somewhat by spirit to focus and allow change at the same time. So it's really like, I believe in my future and I believe in sustainability, but I'm also ready to pivot when I need to. And I know my ego will have a tantrum and I'll be in a victimized voice for a while, but I'll bring myself back to what serves me, what serves the people around me, what serves sustainability and nourishment long term, so that those setbacks actually become part of our training. And it's very like Aries to bump up against something and go, I'm going to do all of it. Oh, wait, that hurt. I'm going to do all of it. Wait, oh, that hurt. And to learn from that nature so that we step back and say, okay, I made this mistake last time. I went full in on this. And even though that energy is enticing, did I fully learn the lesson last time? And can I come back and just hover around what I did wrong last time, or what didn't work out last time, or what created the deep loss last time, and try and understand what is calling me into a more wise and sustainable approach. And then we can move through that pathway. But just sit back and hover for a little bit for May and go, okay, where are my actions aligning here? And what do I have? And how sustainable can I be? And what does that look like in terms of support, in terms of resources, in terms of investment, my action to rest ratio, my emotional regulation, my spiritual fulfillment and purpose? Have a good look at it, Aries, before you take action this month. And it will all work out, bring in that earthly nature and those earthly influences. And it's going to be a beautiful month. All right. I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye.